What's up, everybody, to the Sport Aces podcast here. I'm Chris Ortega. Tom Bucciferro is not on today. Neither is my other co-host, Anthony Conti, but they'll be back next week. But we have a special guest here, ladies and gentlemen. We have, a current, student, he's a great guy, I've been watching his podcast, connected with him on LinkedIn. If you haven't checked the podcast out of his, he'll let you know where to find him. It's a great podcast. And let me go ahead and let him introduce himself, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The pleasure's mine being on the show, Chris. Again, I'm very appreciative of you allowing me to hop on. Again, my name is Patrick Stevens. You can check me out, check out my podcast, the sports podcast called The Patrick Show, where I feature athletes, coaches, trainers, you name it, all around, all sports, different areas from North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, and just get their point of view on things. But right now, as you mentioned, I'm a current student at Winston-Salem State, the illustrious Winston-Salem State SU. With that being said, I'm a senior double major in communications and mathematics, and I'm excited to talk some ball, talk some football, basketball, you name it with you, Chris.
Indeed, indeed. But before we get started, we
Yeah.
have to do something that you do at every pod that makes me like really enjoy and get me locked in. Cause I'm like, wow, there's something different that I wasn't ready for when I first watched it, to be honest. But once
Yeah.
you start doing it, I was like, oh, I'm here with you, man. So go ahead, Patrick,
Yeah.
man. I'm with you, man. Take it away,
With
Pat. Yeah, man.
oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure, for
man.
sure. Let's go get back. Let's go ahead and say a quick prayer. Father God, I thank you again for the opportunities you give us, Lord, the things that you bless us with day in and day out, Lord. I just ask and pray that we don't take for granted those opportunities, Lord. I just ask and pray, Lord, that as it says in Scripture, Lord, that we don't lean upon our own understanding, Lord, that we rather lean upon you, Lord, that we rather build and grow our faith in you, Lord, for you are the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end, the King of kings and Lords of lords, Lord. So I just ask and pray, Lord, that we can give you all honor and praise to you, the highest of all names. Jesus Christ's name that I pray. Amen.
Amen, amen, man.
Amen. Woo!
Man, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I know for the people who's watching this, man, if you already subscribe to the YouTube channel below. If you haven't, go ahead, like, comment, share with a friend and to another friend. Man, so All-Star Weekend just went by.
Yeah.
Everybody has mixed feelings about this All-Star Weekend.
Yeah.
I would be the first to say besides the Celebrity Game was the first game I watched
Uh-huh.
that was just because I was investing in Celebrity Game.
Gotcha.
Um, the next day, I mean, I watched the 3-point contest. The dunk contest, I mean, wasn't really no interest there. I just love how Chris Paul and Wemby really try to
Yeah.
cheat. They I don't know if they cheat the system or
Uh,
they try to finesse the system
yep.
of the skill challenge, but that was hilarious.
For sure.
And Sunday, I'm gonna be honest, I only want to watch Tony Raphael Sadiq in the
Oh.
beginning. After that, I only watched the first game, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'm done. I can't watch it no more."
Yeah.
It was just not interesting to me, man. But what did you watch any of the All Star Game festivities?
Yeah, honestly, I've watched bits and pieces of it. I'm just glad I didn't watch it in its entirety, to be honest with you, because it was brutal to watch. I mean, it was heavily entertainment and games, and there wasn't much basketball involvement with it in itself. And kind of similar to how Draymond Green said himself, honestly would rate it 0 out of 10, but I'll give it a one just because it's creativeness in a sense, right? But I mean, top to bottom from that. But I mean, in reality, you can't really blame the organization. You can't blame the NBA for this new phase of All Stars. The only people you can blame for is the players. I mean, you tell me first, Chris, what do you think? Who really is the blame for the change of it?
I think it's it's I would agree. It's all about the players who kind of messed up the All Star
Right.
Game because when I was growing up, and this is gonna say my age. I'm born 94. I grew up in 2000s. So this is when when I first got to liking basketball, this is when before they went to the All-Star jerseys again. This is when they had like the team jerseys. You seen Kobe
Okay,
Bryant, Allen Iverson. You see in the games being competitive where
for
it was high
sure.
scoring, but it was competitive. Like these guys
Yep.
trying to get like game winners.
Uh-huh.
Like this wasn't like no, oh no, they just gonna let them score. Nah,
Yeah.
you had to earn your basket,
Gotta
and it
earn it.
was the best of the best because they playing like it was a regular season game, and that's why I think people really enjoy about All Star Weekend. And then let me not forget, it's just certain events that I wish were still around, like that Saturday, like the 3-point contest was pretty interesting because you had guys that you didn't even know was like in the 3-point contest. Like it was random
Sure.
guys there. The dunk contest was a lot of like rookies, sophomores,
Mhm.
third year guys that was like your eighth, ninth man in the rotation, but they was like acrobats. Like I remember the Jason Richardson, the Fred Jones, the Gerald Green, like
Uh-huh.
those guys, like growing up seeing like the dunk contest, like, it was like, wow, so and I remember seeing the shooting stars. I remember when they had like a legend from like a Magic Johnson. Then they
Uh-huh.
have like Derek Fisher, and then they have like somebody from the Sparks, like Lisa Leslie. Like
Okay.
those were like the shooting stars where they had like different cities for the
Mhm.
teams. So it was pretty dope. I think the basketball aspect changed because a lot of guys take their cues from whoever the top dog is. And
Mhm.
everybody gonna say LeBron James.
Yeah.
LeBron James was the main guy that kind of changed how we view things in the NBA,
Mhm.
where like people ain't gonna really try too hard into playing for real in the All-Star game because if you play too serious, people feel like you're gonna risk yourself and get injured.
Mhm.
Which I understand, like you worried about injuries, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I want to see a competitive All-Star game. I don't want to see
Agreed.
no All-Star game where it looked like you guys is not even trying. Like
Mhm.
the worst was like last year, where it was just like I'm watching the game. I'm like, you could tell they not invested because
Mhm.
Luka just doing something. Jokic just throwing the ball anywhere.
Mhm.
And then you got some guys that's trying to play serious, but they look like the oddballs trying to play serious. So it's just like they're only gonna take the cue from whoever the top dog is. But I think over time, it's gonna change and it's gonna go back to where it was because this new generation of players, they want to be taken serious. Like like the American players kind of got to take it serious because we're looking at the foreign players. Like these guys might be a new face to the leagues compared to the American players. So that's how I feel. But I think it was ideas of like how to fix the All Star game.
Mhm.
They talking about doing a one on one like how Unrivaled did. I'm not sure you've seen the
Yeah.
Unrivaled one on one. Let me tell you, the best thing I've witnessed in this past couple years,
Uh-oh.
growth to the WNBA,
Mhm.
with more people now tuning in back into WNBA now because I remember back in the day growing up, like I remember when they first started the Houston Comets, 4P, like it was some unheard of, like Cheryl Tina Thompson, like they
Uh-oh.
was real, like that's another team they need to bring back, Houston Comets. But I think, Unrivaled really brought that one-on-one aspect where you seen like these women really was balling and
Mhm.
was not caring. Like they was balling.
Yeah.
Like Breonna Stewart couldn't stop Aaliyah Edwards. Like that was crazy when you see like that's crazy. A second year player
Hmm.
is really cooking Breonna Stewart in one on one. Like,
It was eye-opening. It really was.
but
Nah, yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Nah, I mean, I can't agree more on that. And obviously, you gotta give kudos to the NBA because I mean they did what they tried, and obviously
Yeah.
the main emphasis was just putting energy and effort back into the All-Star games, and you obviously saw some improvement involved with that, obviously, but some ideas that I would like to see are some of what the players have already been doing, like you mentioned with Rivals, a one-on-one tournament. People would love to see that. Instead of maybe the dunk contest, how about we have a one-on-one dunk contest, right? See who can dunk on who. That type of scenario. And the 3-point contest is doing its thing. I really wouldn't want to tweak or fix any of that. Maybe have more popular names, so to speak. And then the skills challenge really got its buzz back with the CP3 and Wemby finesse with that there too. So I'm curious on who was the person behind the thought process of trying to finesse that? Was it
It
was
was
it CP
CP3.
or was
You
it
know,
Wemby?
it was CP3. CP3, he knew the rules. He just probably told Wimby his ear like this. Hey man, so Wimby, so like, the way we can like make the time faster. We just gotta throw
Right.
the ball up in the air. We only gotta do 3 times. Throw the ball in 3 times and then boom. And it was funny because when I was watching it at first,
uh,
sitting there like it's kind of hard to do in this skills challenge this year. Like, wow, these guys is really trying to win. And then they got
I
this
mean, they could have
scorecard.
put some type of effort behind
They
the
could have
air
just shot
balls.
air balls.
Right.
Yeah, like,
Make it look
oh,
realistic.
it didn't look believable at all. It's like I couldn't do nothing but laugh because I'm sitting there laughing only because CP3 is the vet, so you would think the vet will at least have some class about it. And then you
Right.
let Whoopi fall once. I'm like, so it's even 10 times funnier because you got the young guy with you on this one.
Right.
So I'm like
Right.
this, you got the young international guy with you
Oh man.
with the shenanigans. Like, come on, man. You gotta stop the nonsense, CP3. Stop
For
it.
sure. For
Stop the
sure.
nonsense, man. But
That's too good.
speaking of them, man, transitioning over to the NBA season. I know Wemby's out for season right now,
Right.
currently with the blood clot in his shoulder. I know I think one of the Thompson brothers had this injury last year.
Mm-hmm.
They said Chris Paul had some not Chris Paul, Chris Bosh had something similar with this, which is real concerning. But I really hope, he gets back out there next season, man, because he's a bright talent. You know,
Yeah.
he's really an alien. Like, like 7'3", can shoot threes, dribble the ball.
Unicorn.
Like that's unheard of. Like
Mhm.
it's just crazy. It's just a lot to see. Like whoa.
Right.
So it's just crazy, man. But I know, things went back in action Wednesday. The Hornets
Mhm.
escaped from the Lakers from their road trip by 3. This is that Hornets game. I ain't gonna lie, man. My biggest fear about the Lakers
Mhm.
is what I was seeing. Luka's struggling.
Mhm.
I don't know how him and Bron's gonna work together.
Yeah.
Since this trade is going to be, what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to be this season. I'm not going to expect nothing too much of them
Mhm.
because they got to find a footing with each other. The second half
Right.
of the season, I mean, it could be enough time, but it's going to be struggling if, Luka can't stay healthy, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you talk about, I mean, first about the Wemby situation, I mean, that's tragic, honestly, really, with the blood clot, like you mentioned. Normally, obviously I'm not a medic, but normally that's in the lower region, like the legs, but to be a shoulder, obviously they got to have him out indefinitely for the remainder of the season. And then obviously he has to be out for or be away from any contact sport for 6 months in order to avoid it from being a health concern. So that's obviously tragic for for Wemby because obviously he's the face of the Spurs, but let alone he's the future of the NBA, of course, right? So that's terrible to see. And then obviously the Bobby Portis situation with him and the 25-game suspension with him. I believe his agent had said something about him mistakenly taking a pill that was unauthorized by the league. So
Yeah.
that was kind of, I don't know. I was left in awe in a sense when I heard about that situation.
I only reason why I chuckle laughing because
Right.
I understand Bobby Portis was dropping like 50 a game, and then we got this drug suspension. I would understand completely.
Yeah.
Like this was like, and this was like the beginning of like February when you drop 23, 26, 18. I'm like, okay, we can test them, see what's
Right.
up.
Right.
But when the last two games before the break was like 7 to 8 points, that reminded me of like when they suspended Tristan Thompson. Like, yeah, that was 2 points a game, like 8 rebounds. Like, was the steroids really giving him a benefit?
Right.
Like, oh man, I think in certain things, in certain suspensions where I'm like, that could have swept down to the rug sometimes, in my
For
opinion.
sure.
Because some players, it's just like it's not happening. Like now, if this was like Steph Curry, and all of a sudden he dropping like 83. I don't know. Like, nah, we gotta drug test him. We gotta drug
Correct.
test him. But nah, man, I hope Bobby Portis, man. But at least he comes back before the season end.
That's right.
Right, if they still in playoff contention, he
Mhm.
can help, the Bucks with their playoff chances. Because right now, looking at the standings right now, I mean, they're at the fifth seed currently.
Mhm.
But there's some teams that's really, some shockers this year, like the Detroit
Definitely.
Pistons. Like,
Yeah. Talk to me about that.
man, but Cade Cunningham, man,
Hmm.
I'm gonna be honest, I love the growth that he's having this season. Like, a lot of people was always writing Detroit off because they wasn't no good, which they were just a very young team. They still a young team,
Hmm.
but with the Detroit Pistons, at the sixth seed, they can keep it up. They can secure a spot and
Mm.
not avoid the play-in. Now, the playing teams you see is the Magic at 7, he at 8, Hawks at 9, Bulls at 10.
Mm.
Now, this spot at number 10, I don't know what the Bulls are doing. You trade everybody.
Yeah.
You trade everybody away. And there's no way y'all stand in the play. The
Uh,
Sixers is like
yeah.
I
Situation.
we're gonna get to them after we talk about the rest of the conference because I got a lot to say about Joel.
Oh, I gotta hear that.
But the Brooklyn Nets, like the teams at the bottom of the rankings or bottom of the standings. I mean, the Wizards, just the Wizards.
Right.
But the top four teams, the Pacers at 4, Knicks at 3, Celtics at 2, Cavs at 1. I mean, the East look like it could be pretty decent in the playoffs if this panned out the way it should. You know. Now
Right.
over to the Western Conference. This is
Mhm.
where things get interesting
Right.
because too many scenarios can happen. Because a lot of these teams, it's like it can be up for grabs.
Okay.
Because Thunder at 1, Nuggets at 2, Grizzlies at 3, Rockets at 4, Lakers at 5, Clippers at 6. Then the play-ins, you got the Timberwolves at 7, Mavs at 8, Kings at 9, 10 with the Warriors at 10.
Mm.
And right knocking at the door, you got the Suns and the Spurs. Now,
Okay.
my prediction before the Wemby incident happened, my prediction was when they got De'Aaron Fox, the Spurs
Right.
is a playing team. The
Okay.
Spurs is a playing team. I think they could you find a way to get in the play at number 10. But without Wemby, it's gonna be like a dog fight. Because they're gonna
Yeah.
have to really win a lot of games. Like a lot of key games.
Right.
The Suns, they're in that mix of this has to work.
Yeah.
Okay, if it doesn't work this year, that ownership, you need to blow it up, man.
Hmm.
Blow it up. The Warriors, I mean, Draymond did say they're gonna win a title. He believes they're gonna win the title.
He was talking crazy that whole All-Star break though. So
You know, you gotta believe in your team somehow. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
Kings, I think the Kings can keep in the play-in spot. The Mavs is kind of tricky because a lot of your
yep.
bigs is out, but potentially Anthony Davis can come back within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So if Anthony Davis come back before the
Hmm.
season and then you're still in the playoff hunt, that'd be a good addition for you guys because that helped Kyrie out a lot. The Timberwolves, I think the Timberwolves lost that trade with the Knicks.
Most definitely, heavily. I mean, I was in disbelief when it first came out, but then just seeing how the seasons played out, it was like I just didn't see what they really saw in Randleman, really. I mean, Julius. So, I mean, top to bottom, that trade was kind of questionable from the whole way out with that. And then obviously talking about the current rankings right now, like you mentioned, out of the East, my favorites are still the defending champs, the Celtics. I mean, obviously, we're looking at their records. You got Cleveland, you got the Knicks, right, and you got some other ones like the Bucks, but nobody really tells me that hey, in a 7-game series, that any of those Eastern sides can win it. And then on the Western side, I mean, as much as I would say Lakers are going all the way as a LeBron guru and fan, I just can't realistically say it. I mean, I'm gonna be real. I can't say it just because the past two consecutive playoff series they've lost to Denver 4-1, and then they got swept by Denver 4-0. Right, so in my perspective, I see Denver coming out the West. I mean, right now, you could say OKC, but I just don't see their experience really propelling them over the hump. I like the Nuggets, and I would go with the Lakers, but I think, like you mentioned with the Luka, I mean, this is his like second or third game back from his injuries and playing with the Lakers, so he's still not in his greatest shape, right? And their chemistry isn't quite there yet. I think Luka's been averaging 14, 15 points, so clearly that's not going to be enough for them to make any change in the playoffs. And then, I mean, no one else. Obviously, the Rockets. I love their young core. I love their defense, but again, I have always been on the side of experience and the Nuggets and Jokic's partner in crime, Jamal Murray, who's been turning it up these past 10 games, averaging 26 points, 6.5 assists. I mean, it's in my perspective, who I'm seeing in the finals matchup this year, it's going to be Nuggets, Celtics, Nuggets winning it all. But, hey, I'm saying it early. So, hey, go ahead and mark it down on your calendar because I said it first. I like Nuggets Celtics matchup in finals.
Don't worry, man. I'm gonna clip this. If that happens, I'm gonna have to clip this. Be like this. This was made on this date at this
Right.
time, which is
February
crazy.
21st. That was the date.
Nah, man. I feel you, man, because the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics been great on the road games, so I feel like the Celtics is a team where in the regular season they're like the playoff teams. Like certain teams is just playoff teams. Like the regular season, I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
They in the third, fourth seed, or they in the sixth seed. I mean, okay, that's cool.
You're not buying it though.
But like certain teams have a switch where they turn where it's like, oh, these guys is pretty freaking good. And this is when it's like the Celtics is like that. I think if the Celtics stay at the two seed, it's only going to get interesting because I can only imagine them going against the Knicks in the semifinals matchup. That's going to be an interesting matchup.
True.
Them against the Knicks, because I would love to see that matchup
Mm-hmm.
happen. Western Conference, the Nuggets is always a team where you can never count them out.
Correct.
To me, I think the Nuggets to me is like how the Spurs was in the 2000s and
Okay.
early 2010s. No matter how bad or how good or decent they look in this regular season, you can never count them out from going to the conference finals
For sure.
because they always find a way. Now, the Grizzlies is kind of like without Ja, you guys already seen what happened when you didn't have John Morant.
Right.
You already seen how the season went for you guys. The Rockets is still a young team. I can understand why you feel like that about the Rockets because, but I think Udoka, he's a really great coach. I'm gonna give him his
Yes.
flowers because I feel like that's something that people forgetting about with this Rockets team, how he really managing this young talent that he have there.
Good point.
And whoever they face in the first round, I think it might go 6 games. I ain't gonna think they're gonna go like a gentleman's sweep. I think they can push to a game 6, depending on who they playing.
Yeah.
You know, the Clippers is pretty surprising to me because without Kawhi ain't really making an impact, but you see James Harden reinventing himself
Mm-hmm.
again, like, hey, I'm still him. And
For
then
sure.
Norman Powell, I this is where I feel like I'm gonna going back to All Star. This is why I feel like LeBron should have spoke up a little sooner about that. And I know people who is LeBron fans hate me saying this, but I feel like LeBron should just let Norman Powell take that spot. You could still be on the sidelines.
Right.
Norman Powell could have been on the All Star team. Come on, man. Like, been balling for the Clippers. Well, Kawhi. And that's crazy when you think it's crazy to think like in 2019 or 2020, Paul George and Kawhi were supposed to be the faces of
They
the
was.
Clippers. And four or 5 years later, where we at now, it's like you wouldn't
Right.
predict this will ever happen.
Mm-mm.
Ever happen.
Nada.
So it's just crazy, man. But I know like the games tonight, man, we seeing the Knicks at Cleveland right now for
Okay.
tonight. Memphis at Orlando, Bucks against the Wizards. The Heat versus the Raptors, Detroit versus San Antonio, Pelicans against the Mavs, Timberwolves, Rockets, Thunder, Jazz, Golden State, and the Kings. But the game who I'm looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
is that Tuesday game. I might have to stay up for that one.
Which one's that again?
Dallas at Lakers at 10 o'clock. I might have to stay up for that one.
That's definitely gonna be a good one. I like my eyes on the Knicks Cavs matchup right there. I don't know. I'm a early bird when it comes to, and I can't sleep late, so I ain't gonna lie. I might just have to watch the highlights of the game you talking about at
Oh, that's
10:30.
that's on Tuesday. That's on Tuesday. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
that's
okay,
on
okay.
Tuesday. We got time for that, but that was
We
just
got time.
because
We got
the
time. You
Mavs
right.
coming to Los Angeles, and that's gonna be a Luka angry game.
That's a
But
C one.
with the Cavs, I know that really gonna go crazy because I used to work for the Cavs as an intern in the summertime.
Really?
So
Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
so just I can already know the atmosphere right now. It's 4 o'clock. I can tell you right now, it's probably jumping right now in downtown. Fans is already in downtown,
Oh,
probably
good.
at the bars down this street. That's like a festival of restaurants and bars right now. It's probably getting crazy. People probably putting their sports bets in. It's all of that. But yeah, I definitely gonna watch this, the Knicks versus Cavs game because
Yeah.
that can let me know like the Cavs like
Mhm.
really has like a chance to really, edge the reason why they the number one seed. Because
Right.
right now, last game they played, that was the first game of the season. They won by 6.
I
So
didn't peep that. Yep.
yeah, they was the first game of the season. They won by 6 in New York. So, you know, they have like this game, and then the next 2 games, the game is gonna be on April 2nd at Cleveland, and then April 11th gonna be the last game of one of the last game of the series between the two, and
Hmm.
it's gonna be in New York. So
Okay.
it should be interesting, man. It should be interesting. And crazy enough, both teams lost to the Celtics, by the way.
Mm.
In the last
Mm.
5 games, they faced the Celtics. they both lost to the Celtics. So that's who they can't defeat just yet.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong about that. And coincidence, I'm wearing green, but like I said, I like the Celtics odds this year. And just like you mentioned before, obviously you have those some random teams that come up in the making during the regular season, but you always have your consistent playoff teams, and those two right now have been the Celtics and Nuggets so far.
Yeah,
Mm.
indeed, man. But man, but I know we right now head storm in the NBA season. But we have to, transition, man, to the NFL. First of all, as a Cowboys fan, congratulations, Zach Martin, man, for retiring. It hurts my heart knowing that, a great right guard is not going to be there to
Yeah,
protect Dak. Just know, man, you're first ballot Hall of Famer in my book, man.
for sure.
So, yeah, man, it's just going to be tough. 'Cause I know we need alignment, but it's very soon. But man, NFL free agency, man. Right now they're doing a lot of franchise tag. I mean, the
Yep,
Bengals gotta make some decisions
for sure.
because T. Higgins up
Mm,
there. It's kind of like what they're gonna do about that. Chris Godwin, Sam Donald, Stephon Diggs,
mm.
uh, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Najee Harris, Aaron Jones. Just to name a few of the names. Oh, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Just name a few names
Right.
that's on the free agent wire right now with a lot of teams. So for any team to looking forward to, I mean, some teams. I mean, it's interesting to see, man, where these players might go in free agency. I mean,
For sure, for sure. The biggest name that I've seen come to here really is Miles Garrett. I mean, honestly, I think he propels any team who's like right there at the cusp of winning a Super Bowl. I think he can push them to the next level and be a legitimate Super Bowl threat. But like you mentioned before, obviously there's a list of names of free agencies that you could go with. And honestly, top to bottom of all 32 teams, what I've seen is if you don't have a top five QB, you're not in it to win it. You're set up for failure. You're not going to really make the final dance, aka the Super Bowl, right? And when I look at the top five QBs in those teams, there's really only two other teams that come to mind who could win a Super Bowl but don't have a top five QB, and that's really the 49ers and the Detroit Lions. If you're not those two teams or you don't have a top five QB, you're not really, at least from what I'm seeing, you don't look like you have a great chance of winning the Super Bowl this upcoming year. I mean, you tell me.
I know Aiden Hutchinson was on a podcast recently,
Uh huh.
and he did say, "What if Miles Garrett would end up going to the Lions?
Right.
That would be such a dangerous D line in
It would be
Detroit.
crazy.
But you gotta think about the D line. If this ever happened, you have Aiden Hutchinson on one side, Miles Garrett on the other side. At that point, from the NFC North, I would literally hate to be the quarterback of any
Yeah.
team. But the Browns trying to play hardball, man. They're not trying to trade Miles Garrett. They're trying to take a page out the Lions book, how they used to do with a lot of these star players, where you're not leaving here, man. We're gonna sign you to a long-term deal.
Yeah.
And then when they start to like not really show no effort, I think the reason why the Browns don't want to trade Miles Garrett because you kind of got the buyer's remorse, feeling like you got Deshaun Watson and y'all didn't do nothing at all. Unfortunately, he injured his Achilles,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got re-injured in the process of still being injured. So
Yeah.
it's up in the air, like what you guys going to do going forward. And like most star guys, you don't want to sit around and wait for
Mm-hmm.
another rebuild. Like You guys was in the playoffs a couple years ago.
Right.
He was like a great defense.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, you guys just out of nowhere, y'all just not good no more.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy how that fall off happened for the Browns. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, but I think Myles Garrett need to go to a team that need defensive ends. And I think it's very few teams that I feel like he would be a good fit on.
Hmm.
The Lions would be a crazy outcome.
For sure.
But teams that I can see try to make a push for him, I can see the Commanders try to push for him
Yeah.
because the amount of salary cap they have,
It's
they would
crazy.
try they would try to get this man in their building, and they would try to give him a huge deal.
Hmm.
Another team that I feel like people forget about that like has like a lot of cap space, the New England Patriots. Even though a lot of people kind of like, feel like since Belichick left, nobody want to touch the Patriots at all.
Hmm.
But the Patriots has a lot of cap.
Yeah.
And when you over like 90 million in cap room, possibly do whatever you want and
For
sign
sure.
some big names to your team. You
Mm.
open your checkbook already. So stay in the position and you have a young quarterback, new head coach, can make moves. So it's the only way I can see, man, with the where Myles Garrett can lead to. I mean, I know everybody think T. Higgins is going to stay for a franchise tag, but I think T. Higgins need to make that move and go to another team. I think
No,
the
yeah, I see that. Let me add this because you make a great case with Myles Garrett with that, and really what that situation comes to mind is similar to us Cowboys situation with Micah Parsons. I don't know why in the world we continue to hold off to sign him until it's time to pay him the whole bank and more, right? So similar situation with Micah there, and I guess my situation with him is like, when we pay him, we're gonna be cuffing our own selves, right? We're not gonna have that much salary cap left. So, I mean, I just don't like the Cowboys situation, what us and Jerry Jones consistently put ourselves into. Because last summer it was CeeDee Lamb, right? Now this year it's gonna be him. So it's just like, what are we doing wrong from the GM standpoint for why we keep putting ourselves in this situation of shooting ourselves in the foot, right? So that's what comes to mind when we're talking about Myles Garrett. It's very similar to the Micah Parsons situation to me.
but the thing with us as Cowboys,
Yeah.
we all know what's the common denominator for every problem. Jerry Jones. Like, no matter how much we try to prep ourselves for,
Right.
you know, try and get deals done, the guy who makes it longer than usual will always be Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones think a lot of guys gonna take a hometown discount. Like, hey man, you're a cowboy, you know, we can wait on this deal, but you forget like the market changes every year with
Right.
certain conditions. Like this year, you about to see a wide receiver market get changed drastically because Jamar Chase is going to get his payday.
Right.
So if Mike Brown trying to play this hardball, think he going to be cheating with Jamar Chase.
Yep.
Jamar Chase might demand a trade.
Mm.
And if that happens, Joe Burrow is not going to want to deal with the Bengals no more.
For sure.
And like a lot of these ownerships have to understand you want to sign these guys as early as possible. Like, let me give you a perfect example of a team that have guys on contract,
Mm.
and these guys wouldn't mind taking that contract because they know they're gonna get pieces for it.
Mm.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
When you look at their whole contracts,
Hmm.
maybe like one or two guys that might get paid a lot, but like Jalen Hurts is not getting a $20 million salary
Oh.
cap hit. Devontae Adams is not too much of the cap hit. AJ Brown not too much of a cap hit. Saquon not too much of a cap
Mm-mm.
hit.
Nope.
Defensive side of the ball, like you got a lot of guys that's still nowhere near the cap hit that's not making you go over salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
And you see where they when the end result was a Super Bowl. So I think the problem is really like these guys that's in those ownership seats, they have to understand like you have to sign these guys as early as possible. Like if like before the Deshaun Watson deal, if you had a quarterback's contract coming up, you need to sign now before the quarterback market change because now not only you could have done the Dak Prescott contract, CeeDee Lamb contract way before all these other contracts came out. You could have done
Yeah.
a CD contract before Justin Jefferson contract. So then when you try to negotiate, nah, you already signed this deal. You can't negotiate until like 3 years from now. And then
Mm-hmm.
by then, it might not be the same money just Jefferson get. It might be a little lower. So it's just tough because it's like you seeing teams really taking a huge hit and everything. But some teams they just gotta figure out what to do next because some teams they just gotta like figure out what direction they're gonna go. Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the Cowboys' direction will be. Like going to the draft, like me personally, I think we need a D lineman or wide receiver number two.
You
That's
think
just me.
so?
I think so. I think a running back, we could get a running back in free agency. I think
I
only,
see.
only because I don't think Gentry gonna stay there too long.
What
Because
makes you say that?
because I can see a team like the Saints make a surprise pick and get Gentry only because you got Alvin Kamara still getting older. You add Gentry in there now, you building your future backfield.
So you're foreshadowing that they might have to steal that pick. Okay. I don't know.
That's
I
my
think that
foreshadow.
I think the clear pick, at least for the first round for us, is to pick up a running back. I mean, last time we did that, we got Zeke, and you can't tell me wrong. That was probably one of the best decisions Jerry Jones has made this this past decade, at least, is drafting Zeke in the first round from Ohio State, right? So I think picking up Ashton Gene first round would be the more obvious choice because that was one of our major downfalls this past year for the Cowboys. And honestly speaking, if my hot take is that the Cowboys don't do something, we're going to be the bottom of the division this year. Because you got to think about it. You got the Eagles just coming off the Super Bowl, right? You got Commanders who looked fantastic with 12 wins this past year, and they might look to win the division next year. Then you got the Giants, who don't sleep on because they got the second pick overall, so they might get around and get Shador Sanders, right, or get some QB or maybe Travis Hunter, right? So they're gonna get somebody a big name in that organization this upcoming year. So if us Cowboys don't do something quick, you're gonna have Dak Prescott, who's making too much money, and then you got CD and then Michael Parsons. So I mean, obviously, if we don't make the moves necessary, we might be the laughing stock for this upcoming season in our division.
You're right, man. But I'm gonna tell you why I feel like there's so many scenarios that can play around, right? Because as much as I understand why I would love Genty, the only reason why I'm afraid that somebody's gonna steal that pick away from us, only because I feel like it's gonna be a team that's gonna be like a team that I wasn't suspecting to take it.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a wide receiver who I really want in this draft,
Uh,
McMillan from Arizona. Give me him. Give me him.
okay.
He's him, either Luther Burden from Missouri.
Okay.
That's a good receiver there. I know him or the Ohio State receiver,
Uh,
Emeka. So
okay.
that's
Good point.
another guy. But I know I'm on CBS Sports mock draft, and they
Mm-hmm.
got Shador falling to 22. they think Shador's going to really fall out the top 10. I don't see,
Not, yeah,
I don't see that happening because if Shador really drop out of top 10,
yep.
my God, something had crazy must have happened. Either it's something we don't know about, or because that's unheard of. That's really
No,
unheard of.
that is alarming. And obviously with the draft and the mock drafts, like we were just talking about, the top three people that everyone's been talking about and still in the show has been Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, and Travis Hunter, right? And in my opinion, if I was the Tennessee Titans, I think the safest pick is Travis Hunter. If you argue me, obviously, he is a dual threat on play on both sides. Obviously, you want to play moderately if you want to be in concern of his longevity, of course. And then secondly, I mean, when you look at Tennessee Titans situation, they're not going to win immediately. They need multiple picks. They need multiple moves in order for them to be a threat in the AFC South with the Texans there, of course. So I think Travis Hunter is the safest pick. But if you are choosing QB, like most are saying, I would go with Cam Ward just because of his grit, his throwing ability, and of course his maturity, right? So that's what I've been seeing with those three names. But like you mentioned, to see Shador drop all the way down to 20s in the 20s outside of that, I mean, there's something that most people don't know, obviously, if that's the case.
Yeah, and now I'm on NFL.com,
Mm-hmm.
which they have him falling to the New York Jets at 5, which
What?
is interesting because I think he's not going past 3. He's not going past 3. If he go past 3, the only other team I can see him going to would be the Raiders.
Good point.
The Raiders is the only other team I can see getting Shador.
Uh-huh.
Because you look at it, you got tight ends, you got weapons around him with the tight ends and Brock Bowers.
Yep.
You got Jacoby Myers, which you could probably get a receiver late in the draft because
Mm.
this is a good skill class so far with receivers. So I think you can get a sneaky receiver, second, third round for Shador. But and then TB12,
Yeah.
he's the ownership right now. So is Shador there at 6? Was Shador there for the Raiders? I'm getting Shador.
You have to.
I'm getting my guy Shador. Now, the Travis Hunter thing is interesting because he is going to the combine and
Yep.
primarily as a cornerback, which
Mm-hmm.
everybody knew he was going to play corner.
Right.
But I feel like whoever team he goes to, you definitely need to put him at the receiver spot sometimes
Yeah.
because he could definitely be the guy that's like surprisingly might give you some like advantage on the offensive side of the ball
Mm-hmm.
because he played corner. He gonna think like he's a cornerback.
Yeah.
That's like an advantage of having a dual threat type guy. So that's the main thing, man. Because Cam Ward, I think the reason why everybody see Cam Ward going number 1, because it's like you said, maturity,
Mm.
his accuracy, and I think the only fear I have about him being number 1
Mm.
is he don't live up to it.
You think so?
That's my only fear because a lot
Mm.
of times you don't want to, because these past 2 years, we don't want to see where the number 1 pick wasn't as, productive their first season, but then the second pick or the second pick behind them be like
Yeah.
somebody that actually lived up to the hype. But we seen it with Jane Daniels, Caleb Williams, then we seen it with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, but difference is now Bryce Young is starting to come to his own right. And the
Yeah.
crazy thing is, the Panthers was looking at quarterbacks. Now Panthers like, we got our guy. You just got to get him pieces now. And CJ Stroud has struggling sophomore season. So we
Mm.
don't know how this next year going to play out for
Right.
Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels. But that's the only thing that worst case scenario that could happen, you
True.
know. So that's my only fear about that, man.
No, I definitely see that point of view there. And again, it's kind of like tomato tomato, like you were saying there. But in addition to what you mentioned about Travis Hunter, I mean, you got to put him on a little bit on offense, throw him some packages out there so he can get some plays in on the offensive side. But you got to also look at it from a selling tickets point of view. I mean, more people are going to be willing to see him play and just see him on both either ends of the field. So I think either perspective you look at from a organizational standpoint of sales and tickets, or even just simply winning games, I think he can play a part in both standpoints of that.
Nah, man, it's definitely gonna be. It's just surprising to see, man, how this combine gonna go next
Yeah,
week, because I know next week is the NFL combine. So we're gonna see who rise up their stock, who stock
definitely.
go lower. I think, this would be my prediction before we get off. I think this combine might shock a lot of people. If Shador and Cam perform at the combine,
Yep.
I think we might get a performance from Shador that's going to really make the
Mhm.
separation from
It's
Cam
gonna be
Ward.
necessary.
Because I think it's going to be necessary overall. Like you said, it's going to be necessary for both quarterbacks to perform. Because if they don't perform, now you got to wait for their pro day to
Right.
see if they top quarterback status.
Well, Shador better not run no 40. You know how slow that boy is. As long as he don't run no 40, I think he'll be straight.
They go
Boy,
there.
I didn't know it was possible to have a last name Sanders and not be able to move. He's the first of only Sanders who can't move. He got no wheels, but I'll give him credit where credit's due.
Look,
Obviously, he can escape. He can make something happen, make something shake when he's in the pocket scrambling. But I mean, good gracious, from his junior year with the Colorado when he was the most sacked QB, obviously a large part of that to blame is the offensive line. But in addition to it, it's him to blame, right? Holding the ball too long and things of that nature. And he kind of did a little bit of that this past year, his final year with the Buffs. But I'm curious to see what he can do, because that's what's making me cautious to pick him over Cam Ward. Is just minor things like that, holding the ball too long, and only that's going to get emphasized more at the national football level when you got bigger, stronger, faster defensive linemen. So that's one thing of many that he's going to have to improve on if he really wants to stand out in the league.
I think the biggest thing that I think whoever team Shador go to, it has
Yeah.
to be a team that has the right pieces around him. I think because Shador is one of them quarterbacks where, with the right talent around him, he
Mm-hmm.
can flourish. He can flourish easily. You've seen, matter of fact, besides his junior year, I think his senior year this past year, with having a receiving core around him,
Mm-hmm.
you've seen what he could do. He didn't have a running game at all.
No,
Mind you, he didn't have a
non-existent.
running game, so
Yeah.
it was mainly pass heavy. Now you give him a run game, and then he don't have to throw like 40, 50 passes a game. You knock that down to like 30 passes a game, like we might see something different. I think that's what people forget about when it comes to Colorado. Like Colorado didn't have like a true run game. So it
Mm-hmm.
was really like, and this is gonna be like an old offense that people don't really know about. It's like the run and shoot. For the people who don't know what the run and shoot offense is, go ahead and look it up. Everybody got Google, look it up. 90s Houston Cougars offense, University of Houston Cougar offense. They have Andre Ware, he's won a Heisman, and he was in at University of Houston, 1990. And they ran the run and shoot. And David Klinger, that was his backup that had gaudy numbers as well. So those two was a product of the run and shoot. And when they got to the NFL, was not good. So that's why I think it's gonna be kind of like whoever team gets him,
Mm-hmm.
that offensive coordinator has to have like a good system
Yep.
that's gonna fit Shador's skill set. And you gotta have the talent pieces around him for him to flourish.
Mm.
Because if you want him to be a day one starter,
Yep.
you might want to have the right pieces around. Now, if you want him to sit behind like a vet
Mhm.
and just focus on a whole year of just trying to figure out what to do next, okay. I mean, you can have him go join the team. Like I feel like for Shador, I mean, any city that I think would be good for him to sit behind a vet would have been like the Jets with Aaron Rodgers or
Mm.
Matthew Stafford with the Rams in
Right.
LA. That'd been great for him to see,
Mm.
learn from the vet and then take over when he decides to lead the game or,
Mhm.
go to another team. Because look at, when Joe Flacco was there with Lamar Jackson.
Mm.
Then Lamar Jackson took over and seen what happened. Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith, like people forget. Alex
Yeah.
Smith taught Patrick Mahomes a lot. Patrick Mahomes
Real talk.
will always give credit to Alex Smith. I don't want nobody ever forget that Alex Smith really was like that guy in Kansas City.
He was.
When people was like kind of skeptical about Mahomes when he first got drafted.
Yep.
Because Mahomes wasn't like no Heisman guy. He was
Mhm.
just an average quarterback coming from Texas Tech
Yep.
on the Cliff Kingsbury. So,
Yeah.
when you see where Mahomes at now, like you see
For sure.
that development over time. So I think the right development, I think Shador could be a great quarterback.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna be honest, his receivers that's going in this draft,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I think they're gonna be some steals.
For
Them
sure.
Colorado receivers, man, they go to a good teams
Hmm.
and they like produce right away. Like
Hmm.
Colorado might be the place where they might be a good receivers, but I ain't gonna call them wide receiver U because that's
Yeah.
all. That's all Ohio State,
I was
LSU
about to
right now.
say, you about to say 1A, 1B
Nah,
category.
they ain't gonna get nowhere near a wide receiver U. You got years to reach that level
There you
because
go. I like it.
certain teams they known for like their positions. Like if
Hmm.
I need a wide receiver, I'm really going
That's the spot.
LSU or Ohio State.
Hmm.
That's the only two schools I'm looking at.
Yep.
Maybe Bama. Maybe Bama. I'm gonna give Bama a little love
Little
because they
credit.
did have a Heisman Devontae Smith.
Correct.
So like I'm gonna have to give them three schools as like the main schools for right now, wide receivers.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I'll throw this question at you, Chris. While we were just briefly talking about Shador, because I'm not really hearing it much from the media, but what kind of player comparisons in the league currently do you see in regards to Shador? Mm. Did I
like,
stump you there? Don't tell me I got you, Chris.
you know what? You know who Shador kind of remind me of
Who's that?
in a sense, and this is like no disrespect.
It's gonna be
This is
that.
no disrespect because this is what I think of Shador when I think of this.
Uh-huh.
Shador reminds me of a Geno Smith.
Ooh.
I think
Oh.
he remind me of a Geno Smith. I think because here's why. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because when Geno Smith was coming out of college at West Virginia, people forget about Stedman Bailey, the Tavon Austin. He had those receivers. So he was throwing countless numbers in college at West Virginia. Them years.
Yeah.
Whatever team when he got drafted to the Jets, he didn't live up to that. But I would say Geno Smith would be the best comparison, only because when I look at like body of work,
Mhm.
the throwing, everything, Geno Smith. I ain't gonna say that's his highest ceiling. I ain't gonna say it like that. Like comparison wise, if I'm like watching Shador and Geno like throwing the ball, I'm like, I can see the similarities.
Okay.
But if it's somebody that if I had to compare Shador to
Mhm.
like legit, if I'm putting a ceiling, I would put him in the ceiling of Jared Goff. I would put that
Mm.
ceiling of Jared Goff because Jared Goff,
Yeah.
even though he has some turnover issues,
Uh,
I think on a good day when Jared Goff is on, Jared Goff is fucking on. Excuse my language. Jared
yeah.
Goff is on. So like, you know, that's why I would see the highest ceiling for him right now. I don't try to say like, oh, he's gonna be a Josh Allen, he's gonna be this. I have to think about all around because Shador is not a mobile quarterback. He's
Nope.
not a true dual threat quarterback. It'd been different if
Mm.
he was a dual threat quarterback. Because if he was
Yeah.
a true dual threat, then I've been like Josh Allen would have been like a good comparison. But even though Gino has some wheels sometimes, like Shador will have some wheels sometimes. Like we ain't gonna throw
Uh,
dirt on him too much. Like he's
yeah.
really slow. He can have some wheels in the game. He'll get a first down. He'll get a first down.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I would say Geno Smith, Jared Goff, man. I think
Okay.
those two would probably be my best comparisons about him.
Yeah. No, that was reasonable. I see that. I definitely see the body frame of Geno Smith. I guess some of the players that came to mind was kind of like a Jalen Hurts kind of like clutchness kind of scenario, Baker Mayfield type of throwing
Uh,
style kind of mix like that. But the body frame, hands down, similar to Geno Smith and Jared Goff, though, for sure.
I was gonna say Karen Ward reminds me of like the Baker Russell Wilson
Okay.
type of type of
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, from that lens, a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know some other quarterbacks is coming up, like Jackson Dart is coming up board. So,
Hmm.
and this is my hot take. I know Bama fans might be mad when I say this.
Uh,
I don't think Jalen Milroe is a good quarterback.
I agree.
Neither Quinn Ewers. Anybody that's a Texas fan is watching this.
You don't think so?
I think Arch Manning was better than Quinn Ewers. I think Arch Manning is going to show like he was the better quarterback that y'all should have started. In the games when y'all were losing bad, y'all should have started Arch. That's my hot take about this college football. I know people gonna be mad. I'm gonna see a lot of people in my mentions talking about what are you talking about, but look, that's my hot take.
That's hot right there. That's hot. That's hot for sure.
And let me rewind back to what I
Yeah.
was talking about and being the Sixers.
Mhm.
This is my standpoint. I think the 76ers need to go ahead and blow this shit up. We need to realize that Joel Embiid is not the answer no more, man. You gotta move on from him.
Yeah.
Paul George was a waste of fucking energy with the signing. Cause let me tell you, this guy got more podcast minutes than
Oh
shots he
my
ever took.
God.
Like, come on, man. We need to work better on this, man. Like,
Uh,
ain't no way you telling me podcast P out here doing all this podcasting when you're not in the gym. Yeah, 2 points one game. 2 points. You only
oh,
had 2 more points more than me. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. Tyrese Maxey is carrying the Sixers right now. That is crazy work. But nah, let
oh
me
man.
that's my blow up moment.
Oh
Yeah.
man. That's too good. That's too good. I can't even follow up to that, man. I'm just gonna leave that as is. Leave that as is.
Man,
Whew.
but that concludes the episode, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
of the Sport Aces podcast, man. Pat, man, where can the people find you, man?
For sure. You can find me on Instagram, Patrick PATRICK underscore Stevens STEPHENS underscore. You can also find me on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, you name it. So trying to grow on all platforms with that. Again, with my sports podcast, The Patrick Show. You can find me on YouTube and other podcast platforms. But again, I appreciate your time. Again, Chris, it was a privilege being on here on the show with you and just pick your brain a little bit. It was fun.
Indeed, man. I'm glad you came on the pod today, man.
Most definitely.
I wish my co-host was here, but don't worry. Sooner or later, we're going to end up being like another nightcap when we do late night podcasts.
I like it.
Yeah. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right, man. But for everybody that's watching, man, go ahead, keep subscribing to the channel, man. We're trying to reach 150 subscribers. Like, comment, and share with a friend to another friend. But to conclude this episode here, the Sport Aces Podcast, I'm Chris Ortega.
Patrick Stevens.
And man, we'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen.